couple weeks ago, I was giving my Rethink Pain workshop in Tauranga for the very first time. And in the audience, there was front row center, a guy, let's call him Stuart, because that's what his name was. He was in there, and he was a familiar face. There was someone that was in a presentation I had done back in May. Stuart is in his 60s, and he had 40 plus years of low back pain and a diagnosis of fibromyalgia in 2010. He was on a wide variety of pain medications, from starting with dihydrocodeine, moving on to gabapentin, and then pregabalin in 2018. And the side effects of the pregabalin was quite substantial for him. At the end of my Rethink Pain workshop, he put up his hand. He's like, "Oh, Daniel, can I say something?" It's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And this is the story that he told me and the other dozen participants at the workshop. It's like, "Hey everyone, I'm Stuart, and first of all, I have to let everyone know that Daniel did not pay me to endorse him or the workshop in any way. That's important. That I attended a presentation that he did on May 8th of this year for the Complex Chronic Illness Support Group. And during that presentation, I was provided an experience to be part of his hypnosis demonstration. During that hypnosis demonstration, I went from 8 out of 10 pain to 1 out of 10. And that experience made me think, maybe I can do a bit more about my pain than I thought I could before. And I started doing the technique that Daniel taught me during that presentation. And over the next 6 weeks with my doctor, I was able to wean down on my pregabalin to just the basic pain medication that I had, mostly paracetamol. That story is something that gets me excited. And that is what I'm going to be teaching you tonight, is the secret to how to dramatically improve your patient outcomes with chronic pain. I'm Daniel Degenhardt, and as Lutz introduced, I'm a physio, a hypnotist, and this is something, the secret is something that you already know, but when you put it into practice in a big way, it can make big results. Now, before going into that secret, in the next hour, you're going to learn a little bit more about myself, my Rethink Pain workshop. I'm going to dissect my Rethink Pain workshop for you so you understand all of the research and everything that supports it, and the secret on why it's been so successful for people. And the other thing that we're going to do is have that same hypnosis demonstration that I provided for Stuart. So someone here tonight can potentially have the same type of experience that Stuart has. But a little bit more about me and how I got to this position standing here in front of you today. As long as I can remember, I've had a crooked finger that affected me. I first noticed it playing video games. I couldn't hold the controllers the same way the other kids did. And then that crooked finger kind of went into the hand and into the wrist. And over the course of a couple of years, going into my teenage years, I was starting to get numbness, tingling, aches and pains, and shooting pain at times. And by my mid-20s, I had been to dozens of health professionals, three specialists from 3 different provinces around Canada. And I also had, at that time, nerve conduction tests that showed I had severe carpal tunnel impingement. That was functionally impacting me by making it difficult to write or type or even ride a bike for more than a couple minutes before I had to shake out my hand and massage it. It's through that journey that I found out more about my body and more about pain, how it works. And then I finally got a diagnosis when I was 27 years old. And that diagnosis is Miller-Hiostosis. It's a condition that's one of those 1 in a million conditions that affects the bone by continuing to cause the bone to turn over time. So you can see in that image that the right finger has a waxy, thick look to it compared to the pinky finger on the side, and a tiny little ulna that doesn't even articulate, because the bone can continue to grow, but it also can be inhibited. This condition is why it was impacting on my median nerve, and this is the reason why I'm so passionate about pain education. I wanted to create something that when I was a kid would be that thing that would help me improve in big ways. Because I'm doing better now than I ever have in my entire life. Lutz was talking about how I represented New Zealand in Heidong Gumdo, Korean sword martial art. I'm a head instructor that we based just out of the hall next door. And that's something that in my teenage years and in my 20s I wouldn't have been able to even think of. So I developed the Rethink Pain Workshop to help people like me, people with health conditions that aren't going away, but they need to manage their pain. So I created a 2-hour interactive workshop where I first start off by explaining what pain is, how it works, and I use neuroscience in a really simple way to do that. I then teach the self-management tool that I developed called the Pain Game. It's not rocket science, it's just the best evidence-based self-management tool that I could create and teach to people. And then I provide a hypnosis demonstration to create an experience for someone to improve how they feel. Now here's my disclaimer though. I can't cure anyone's pain. I can't just snap my fingers and the pain is gone. It's something that I only help people to manage their pain. I help and teach them self-management tools so that they can make those changes, but also provide an experience for them to show them how powerful those experiences can be. So I'm going to teach you how to rethink pain in under 5 minutes. This is based on the triune model, and the triune model is something from Dr. McLean from 1957. It's an old theory about how the brain develops in 3 ways. And even though it is an old a theory that's been around for a while, it still holds true to how the brain develops now. So if we think about how the brain develops, first area of the brain to develop is your primitive and old brain. This is where your pons, medulla, brainstem, all the things you need to actually function and survive and live. The second part of the brain to develop is your impulsive or emotional brain. This is where your limbic system is with your amygdala and hippocampus, and that's dealing with those connections, making meaning of things. And then the last part of the brain to develop is your neocortex, your thinking brain. And this is your prefrontal cortex and your motor and sensory strips, and where your language is and thoughts and attention, everything else that makes you you. If we think of the brain developing in this very simple model, we can also think of there being 2 loops. The first is the 1-2 pain or survival loop. Any time that you are impacted by pain, that pain loop is active. Now, it is a bit more complex than that, isn't it? There's a whole neural matrix of connections that makes up when we feel pain. But the simplicity of just thinking that those areas of the brain are the ones that are most likely to be active when you're feeling pain, and any time that you feel pain, those areas are active. The other part of it is your 2-3 thriving loop. So this is engaged hopefully when you're, this is engaged anytime that you're doing something novel or interesting, something that you like to do. Hopefully it's engaged right now. If not, I'm not doing a very good job. But this thriving loop is active anytime that you do something, like a self-management tool. This is important because multitasking is a myth. If I was to be listening on the phone and writing a message, I can do that seemingly at the same time, until I get the guy with the thick Scottish accent on the line, and then what happens? Your listening loop goes for a bit, then you're writing, then listening. Oh, what was that? Then writing. Because we don't have 2 areas of the brain active at one time. It goes back and forth, which is why when you have multiple tasks in front of you, it doesn't work very well. But that means it's great news for self-management tools, because anytime you're engaging your thriving loop and doing a self-management tool, you're automatically inhibiting that pain loop. And that is the message that I teach to any of the people who come into my workshop. that even if it's just for a couple minutes, a minute, a second, if you're doing something to improve how you feel, you're inhibiting that pain loop and engaging your thriving loop. And that's important. It gives the power back to the person instead of needing to be fixed or cured or going to someone to help them. This is teaching them that every single thing they do each day is either feeding that pain loop or the thriving loop. And it gives them a choice on which one they want to feed. So the pain game. It's meant to be a bit cheeky because I know pain is serious, but that doesn't mean that the tools and the education to improve pain have to be. So I wanted something that brings in that childhood curiosity so that when you play it, you can be like, oh, hey, how many times did you play the pain game today? I did it 5. Oh, man, I only did it 4. Just something that you can bring it in, a little bit of fun and play into your self-management tool. Because play, research does show, improves learning and effectiveness. So what is the pain game? It starts with pause. Pause is all about mindfulness. And I'm only going to be sharing some of my favorite studies. If you want more, I got lots more. But these are the ones that were foundational in creating this tool for me. So this study is mindfulness meditation for chronic pain, a systematic review and meta-analysis, showing that it has moderate effects for people with chronic pain. Awesome, great. Just mindfulness in its own, I could be teaching that. But I wanted to do something a little bit more than that. With pause and doing mindfulness, looking at all the different techniques, I've tried a whole bunch with my clients that have come through. The simplest is just, and the most effective is noticing 5 things you see, hear, and feel. So when you're impacted by pain, if I was feeling pain in my hands, I could just take a breath and just notice 5 things I see, hear, and feel. That helps to lower the sensitivity and brings me internally to be able to go on to the next step, which is assess. Assess is all about challenging beliefs and making sure that you're safe, assessing that you're safe. This is an article, Effectiveness of Holistic Mental Model Confrontation in Driving Conceptual Change. Sounds really smart, doesn't it? This just means that when you're working with someone with pain, you need to approach it at all angles. That if you only go in with one focus, then it's not going to be as beneficial as looking at changing those conceptual, making a conceptual change of pain. And in order to change their understanding, their beliefs and their mindsets about pain, you need to assess it. Another one of my favorite studies, if you only remember one thing from tonight, it's this study because it's really awesome. This is in this area of research for mindsets. Now, mindsets, it's a whole field where people are assessing changes in your beliefs and your mindsets and how that changes the outcome of procedures, or in this case, your physiological changes. So in this study, they took 84 housekeepers based out of the United States, and they took half of those and into the control group and said, the general surgeon recommendations for physical activity. Same as what we have here in New Zealand, but these are the things like 3 times 30-minute cardiovascular exercise a week and the strength training and the flexibility. So they sat half of them down and said, these are the things you should be doing. The experimental group was given that same presentation with a little tweak. They were told, hey, you know that 3 times 30 minutes a week of cardiovascular training? Well, every time that you vacuum, you're actually getting that in. So good on you. Keep up the good work. You're not only meeting, but you're exceeding those levels. And you know that strength training. Every time that you lift a rubbish bag or move some furniture, you're getting in your strength training too. So good on you. You're not only meeting, but exceeding. And that flexibility training, well, every time that you reach and dust or get something off the ground, you're working on your flexibility. So you are not only meeting, but exceeding the recommendations for physical activity just in your workday. So good on you, keep up the good work. Before that, they tracked their activity for the entire month through a journal. And then at the moment of the presentation, they looked at outcome measures of their resting blood pressure, resting heart rate, their body fat percentage, their weight, their waist to hip ratio, and their quality of life, how much they enjoyed what they did. At the end of the month, the control group, what do you think happens? Not much. Yeah, no difference. When you say you should be doing this, yeah, it doesn't really work. No changes in any of the outcomes, no changes in their physical activity. The experimental group, they reduce their resting heart rate, they reduce their resting blood pressure, they lost weight, decreased body fat percentage, and they were trending towards improved quality of life. They enjoyed their work more. They saw purpose in it more than just the money coming in. Now here is the most fascinating part about the research in mindsets, in this study in particular. They did not change their physical activity. Their activity levels stayed the same as pre-outcome measures and the same as the control group. All of the physiological changes that were made were because they had a change in their mindset about physical activity and their health. They now believe that they're doing something. When they're doing their cardiovascular training, they're like, yeah, I'm getting my cardio in, oh yeah. So every time that they did something at work that might have before been, oh, I hate this, they're saying, yes, I'm doing more of this, even more than yesterday. And that physically changed them. So imagine how changing someone's mindset about pain can create physiological changes in their body to improve. That's what assess is all about, is making those changes. So there's 3 components of assess. The first is ask, am I safe? When yes, proceed. We're going to do a little experiment right now. I want you all to repeat after me those 3 magical words, I am safe. All right, you ready? Repeat after me, I am safe.
I am safe.
Nice. Okay, that was not very good, not going to lie. Okay, you need a little bit more oomph, a little bit more jazz to that. Okay, repeat after me, I am safe.
I am safe.
Nice, good. And notice that little bit of a smile, that little bit of a positive, warm feeling that you have right now. That is safety. That is important. And that is something that when someone is in pain, they need. So when you know you are safe, you proceed. And then ask, what is your pain for? Why am I feeling this pain right now? Now this is just to get a baseline on where their mindset is so that you can change it. If my mind thinks to my hand, my ruddy old hand, it's holding me back. The pain is holding me back. That's okay. Everyone has a right to have those thoughts, and pain is an individual process that is real. It's okay to have those thoughts. The next step, though, is what belief would serve you even better. It challenges that. No matter where you are with how you feel, what belief would get you that next step closer to what you want to succeed in? This is looking at confronting those beliefs in a simple way, whether you call it hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, getting at the nitty-gritty of what that person believes and making those changes. So once they've assessed, then they improve. The first time I heard about the triune model was from the late Dr. Peter Rousseau. He was a neuropsychotherapist in Australia, and it was his way to describe how the brain develops and how that links in with pain. That he said, doing nothing is doing something. Because when you do nothing, when you ignore the pain, she'll be right. Then that just makes those pain loops more strong. So improve is simple. Do something to improve how you feel. I teach a couple of my favorite techniques, but it doesn't matter what it is. It can be a smile, it can be calling a friend. Whatever it is, do something at that moment. Make those changes, those small consistent changes, so that you can turn on that thriving loop. And then finally, nourish. Nourish is all about getting that serotonin in you. The thing that the amitriptyline and the nortriptyline looks to unlock. Well, this study here, how to increase serotonin in the human brain without drugs. The most effective way and the simplest way to create serotonin is through gratitude. This is from research with Buddhist monks looking at how they got into their meditative states. Gratitude got them there the quickest, made the most changes to their brain. And for nourish, it's just thanking yourself for nourishing your body. That's it. By the time you've played the pain game, you've paused, you've been mindful, then you've assessed that you're safe, and you challenged any negative beliefs you've had. Then you improved, then you actually did something physically about it. By the time you got to nourish, you've done something. And acknowledging that will help to improve your recovery. So that's the pain game. That's it. Like I said before, it's not rocket science. It's just the most effective way that I can help people improve how they feel. And feel free to take any or all of this and start using it with your patients. This is not something that is copyrighted to me. I don't care. This is something that I want to teach and I want to get out there. But the secret you've been waiting for this whole time, the secret is simple. Provide a positive experience. You could have the exact piece of education or the perfect treatment to help someone improve how they feel. But if you don't provide that with a positive experience, it might not be effective at all. With Stuart, I gave a 30-minute presentation on 5 ways to thrive with a rare long-term condition. The content was something that would be able for me to relate to him and the other people in that group. But the secret was providing a positive experience, and the way I do that is through hypnosis, by giving a demonstration on how powerful our own minds are and help guide someone through an experience where you go from 8 out of 10 to 1 out of 10. And these are things that it's not magic. These are steps and processes to make that happen. I'm going to give you an interesting example of how providing a positive experience can make a difference. There's Doug from General Electric. This is a couple years ago. He developed an MRI scanner. He was not a scammer. He was legitimate. He spent 2.5 years making it was at that time the most powerful and effective MRI machines on the market. It was up for a lot of different awards, and he was proud of what he made. And he had an opportunity to go see this MRI in action for the very first time. It was a pediatric hospital. And he went there, and he's tooting his horn. He's like, oh, yeah, talking to the MRI tech, like, oh, yeah, how about this feature? And how's this go? And, oh, yeah, how's that? And the MRI tech's just like, yeah, that's cool. It works. And, oh, so we got a patient coming in. Can we come around? The patient coming in was a small girl in tears. You're like, Mommy, I don't want to go into the machine. It's scary. It's dark. And Mom's saying, you have to be brave. No, I don't want to. The MRI tech gets on the phone, calls up the anesthetist. They have to sedate her in order to use this machine. He found out that 80% of pediatric patients needed sedation, which caused a personal crisis for Doug. He had spent years of his life developing something that could save lives, yet it wasn't being used in a way that was really effective. So what he did, without any support or funding for a redesign of an MRI, he reached out to a company called IDEO, took some design thinking and creativity courses, and he developed the Adventure Series prototype. Now this caused a decrease in the amount of sedations that they have to have, which meant that they could have more scans each day. And the patient satisfaction increased by 90%. Now I'm sure you're all wondering what he did. Well, I can explain it to you in a word. Pirates.
I was going to say SpongeBob.
So what they did, put decals all over the machine, the X-ray techs or the MRI techs were part of it, that they had a script that put the child at the center of the story. That in a moment, you're going to have to be quiet, we're going to put you in the bottom of the pirate ship, because there's going to be a battle coming, and you have to be quiet because the cannons and everything are going to go over top, and we want to make sure that you stay safe and know that you are safe in this right now. And after it's all done, then you can get a treasure from the treasure box. This is how they created a positive experience for those kids. And he knew he had it right when he went back to visit that pediatric hospital, and he saw a little girl coming out of it saying, "Mommy, can we do it again next week?" Provide a positive experience. For Stuart, that positive experience that I provided and within my Rethink Pain workshop is through hypnosis. Now, has anybody here experienced hypnosis before? Anybody? Show of hands? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah. Anybody want to share their experience? You don't have to if you don't. But
not as a victim, but I went to a little bit of a hypnosis training.
Okay.
Hypnosis, and I spent a lot of time preparing a lady in my practice for the idea that I was going to try out hypnosis on her. She went through all that. And she had a connective tissue disease. She had Raynaud's, which was very painful for her. And I very shakingly managed to hypnotize this lady. She went away and she came back in about 3 weeks, and she said my pain was so much better for a couple of weeks. It was very and then she said, "Did you hypnotize me?" And I said, "Yes." And she more or less never wanted to see me.
So fair enough. And actually, that brings up so many perfect things that we can bring into this as well. Because the idea right now, the victim, and that's a common misconception of hypnosis. And I love how even though you had the training, you understand some of the steps and the procedures that you can guide someone through that experience. There's still that idea that it's mind control. But really, in fact, it's how you control your minds. It's guiding them through that experience in a way that I love to describe it as real results from imaginary events. This comes from James Hazelrig. He's a hypnotist in the United States. And this is the simplistic way to think about hypnosis. Remember that movie that you watched where the dog was sick and then ended up dying, and you felt sad and might have even cried a little bit? Well, in that moment, you knew that the dog wasn't actually dead. They couldn't do that on movies. Yet, the movie created an emotion of sadness and gave the suggestion that you should be sad, you should cry, which created physiological changes in your body in response to that. Directors in movies are hypnotists in ways to create those emotional links and then give suggestions. That's another simplistic way. Create an emotion, give a suggestion. The MRI Adventure Series, you could argue that the prototype was to help to hypnotize kids in order to provide them with a new experience. The imaginary event of a pirate battleship created real results of them being more calm and excited and still. Another way to describe hypnosis is monoideism. This is a term that was coined around the same time in the late 1800s when hypnosis was coined. And I like it a little bit more than hypnose, which hypno is sleep, because monoideism means mono, one, idea is thought. One thought, one idea. When you are focused in on one thought, one idea, in the flow, watching that movie, that's hypnosis. That is the state that powerful things can happen. And when you're guiding that lady through that experience, you're drawing her into an experience that would help her make changes to how she felt, which then worked for a little while, which is great. That, for me, that's like you're a great hypnotic subject. Well done. We now know that you have the power to do this for 3 weeks. Now let's see how we can tweak this and develop you self-management skills so that you can practice this on your own and use self-hypnosis. Because now I did this once with you to get this result. Imagine you doing this every day, how much better you'll feel. The idea of having that one focus, maybe you're driving back from the supermarket and then all of a sudden you get in your driveway and you think, how the heck did I get here? Your mind was off somewhere else and you're driving that on autopilot. And that shows that hypnosis is a naturally occurring state. It happens all the time throughout our day. As a hypnotist, I'm just able to tap people into those experiences and into those states. A little bit more effective than the average person. But I would argue, as health professionals, we are all great hypnotists. We help to create change in people. And we bring people from one state to another. That's what our jobs are, to help people like that. When I was starting off as a physiotherapist, my wife and I, Ashley, we moved across Canada with a coworker, and we were new grads at a hospital, and we would sometimes see the same kinds of patients. 2 middle-aged guys with total knee joint replacement, or total knee joint replacements. And both patients would have similar functional outcomes, but I would have my patient leaving with that bigger smile and like, oh yeah, I got this, versus Ashley, who had much better manual therapy skills and is a much smarter physiotherapist than me, would get them better, and they would leave, and they'd do all right. But I thought I had this gift of the gab. Then I realized, once I learned about hypnosis and language patterns and how to guide people through experiences, I was just a hypnotist disguising myself as a physio. And hypnosis has a massive amount of research supporting it right now, which is interesting as well. I'm only going to touch on one because there's two. One that showed that it had improvements. I forgot to put it up here, but it had, with chronic pain patients, hypnosis had an increased effect over other treatments, including cognitive behavioral therapy. And the interesting thing with hypnosis versus cognitive behavioral therapy is the sessions. Hypnosis can create a powerful effect quickly, which you'll find out here soon. Whereas sometimes challenge those beliefs through cognitive behavioral therapy takes a lot of work. So that's why I like hypnosis, but there's some imaging studies that are phenomenal. And this is one of my favorite recent ones. Hypnotic analgesia reduces brain responses to pain seen in others. So this is in response to studies already being done that show when you put a painful stimulus on the back of your hand and register or put your brain in an MRI, and then give that same painful response, but put someone into a trance with hypnotic analgesia as the suggestion, that it has decreased activation in the brain. So what these guys did, took it one step further, and they did the same pilots of pain, no pain, hypnotic analgesia, then it doesn't feel as bad, letting it go. Then they showed people pictures of hands that were either given painful stimuluses or nothing. When you're given the hypnotic analgesia suggestion, there's less activation in your amygdala and your insula. You are actually decreasing those pain loops. But what's phenomenal is that it's actually in respect to seeing others as well. So this is showing that that experience of hypnosis it's not just wishy-washy stuff that you're saying words and it's fluff and all of this. No, we're actually making changes to the brain. The changes that interact and cause more theta brain waves to happen as well. And that's what I find fascinating with hypnosis. I love steps, I love processes, I love things that I can look and see, hey, this is what's actually happening, which is really cool. That brings us to the hypnosis demonstration. So this is the opportunity where you can experience something the same way that Stuart did. Now, we're going to do two things. The first is what I call a receptibility test. This is something to see how receptive you are to hypnosis right now in this environment. We are all, because hypnosis is a naturally occurring state, it's something that we can all experience. But in this environment, some people are going to be more receptive than others. Within this receptibility test, I've built in the effect of being able to decrease pain. This is something that I provided for Stuart, and that's what helped him go from an 8 out of 10 down to a 4. And then I'll be taking and using one person to help to guide them through an even more powerful experience to help them even more. So that's what we're going to get up to. And for anyone, is anyone feeling any pain right now? Having an ache or a pain or an injury that they just want to improve? Because this can be something, okay? Show of hands, who has the pain that they want to improve? A couple people over there. Cool. All right. So then for you two, think of that pain, and this will be something that you can feel better from it. For everyone else, I want you to just follow through the best that you want and that you can, and just be intrigued about the process. Bring some of that childhood curiosity into it, and the thing is, you'll feel a little bit better afterwards. That's my suggestion, that you're going to feel better. All right? So I want everyone to stand up for me, please. Now, this is a simple suggestion that I'm going to be giving you. We're going to do an activity that will help create the idea that your hands are going to be stuck and locked together. That's it. Just something to play around with how your brain can create physiological changes. So I want everyone, you're ready, put your feet shoulder width apart, make sure you're comfortable, shake it out. All right. Make sure that if you have, you're safe with your hands, elbows, shoulders. We're going to be using your hands, elbows, and shoulders. So if you have any injuries there, just watch. But this is something that if you're safe and happy to go, I want you to take your hands out in front of you, straighten your arms out, and focus on just one spot on your hands. And as you focus on that one spot on your hands, I want you to keep those arms locked and stuck out front. And on the count of 3, those hands are going to get locked and stuck together in an interesting way. 1, close your eyes, and now think of a person that you love. Imagine that person or the people, imagine their face, and as you smile or just think and build that love, I want that love to create that sticking, that locking in through your hands. 2, getting more stuck, building that love through your body, from your heart, down your shoulders, into your hands. So that 3, getting more stuck, more locked. As you feel that love, now if you try to put your arms apart, if you try to pull them apart, they get more stuck and more locked. As you feel that love, and then just focus back on the hands. And open your eyes, and now looking at your hands, you're going to repeat after me those 3 magical words, and at that moment, you're going to release the hands, release any of that pain that you have, and repeat after me. I am safe. And release and relax and shake it out and just wiggle and shake it out. There we go. All right. So what was that experience like for you? Anybody? What was that like? What was your hands were really stuck on there. Yeah. So what was that like for you? What was that experience for you?
Yeah, it was weird.
It was weird. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And for you over there, how much better do you feel?
I feel the same.
Feeling all the same? All right. And did that help improve the pain for the 2 over behind?
Yeah, it did.
It did?
Yeah.
And did it zero it completely? Did it make it go down? Did it make it go down to 0? No? Okay. Would you be happy to do another activity that can help to get it all the way down to 0?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, come on up. All right, everyone else have a seat, and give her a bit of a round of applause for coming up. Okay. So I want you to just have a stand over here for me, please. Okay, so now for this, just point to the area that you felt that pain. Right there, okay? And from 0 to 10, so 0 being no pain at all, 10 being the worst pain, what number did it start at? I didn't ask you that, but
We didn't.
yeah. What do you think it was kind of at compared to where you are right now?
Yeah, sort of a 6, 7.
6, 7, okay. And where would you say it is now?
Yeah, it is indeed more like 3.
3,
Yeah.
nice, awesome. That is awesome.
Okay, I can go already.
Yeah. Well, I want to get that down to a 0, okay?
Cool, yeah.
And when we're able to get this down to a 0, what would that allow you to do more of?
more of the whole day.
Yeah, so you'd be able to just do more the whole day.
Yeah.
Awesome, yeah. And what kinds of specific tasks would be able to be done easier? What's something that's difficult for you right now?
The dishwasher?
Dishwasher, yeah. So bending forward to get that, yeah, exactly. So you'll be able to do that more. That's what we're going to look at right now. Okay. So we're going to do a card trick to make this happen. Okay. So I got a deck of cards here, and if you had to describe that pain in one word, what would you describe that feeling?
Sharp.
Sharp. The first color that comes to mind when you think of that.
Orange.
So that orange, sharp pain in your low back area, that's what I want you to be thinking of when you pick one of these cards. Now, I want you to run your fingers across until you find a card that feels like it's that sharp orange pain. And then pull the card out only halfway. Okay, so go ahead, taking card that feels, okay, and then pull it out halfway. All right, now, I've given you the option now, as the physio and as the hypnotist, to change your mind. I want to make sure that you are fully in control of your choices for this. So you can choose to take this card, or you can put it back and take a new one. What would you like to do?
Take this one.
Okay, so take that card and show everyone else. Okay, so show everyone else, yep. And let me know when everyone has seen it. So you might not be able to see the whole thing, but that's all right. Let me know. All good?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Now, that represents that orange, sharp pain that you have. The rest of the deck here is the rest of your brain. The memories, your thoughts, going back to that embarrassing thing that you did back as a teenager, all of that's back in the brain. And what we're going to do is put that sensation back in the brain and do something to make it feel better. Okay? So I want you to just put it anywhere in the deck, so just kind of stick it right in. Okay. Good. All right. Now, the thing that most people do, especially New Zealanders, when it comes to pain, is ignore it. The idea of, she'll be right, I'll just put it behind me and that'll just make it feel better.
And doctors.
And doctors sometimes as well. But when we do that, sometimes the pain can come back. So this pain is really attached to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I want you to hold on to that for a moment while I pick up these cards so we do not have any balls there. Usually I have a table next to me. Just going to put these out here. Okay, all right. So that's come back to you. We need to do something a little bit different. We're going to use some hypnosis to help to make that 3 go down to a 0 and help you be able to move forward and be able to do more dishwashing and more of the things that you love. All right. So are you right or left-handed?
My husband will pay you.
So are you right or are you left-handed? Right-handed? Happy to use that hand for me right now? Okay. So I want you to hold this card up in front of you like that. Okay? I want you to focus on one spot on that card. And as you focus on that one spot on that card, in your mind only, I want you to be repeating, I'm going to drop this, I'm going to drop this. And as you repeat in your mind, I want you to notice the sensation between your fingers and the card, the tension in between your elbows down to your back. And as you focus on that one spot, what feels more stuck, more locked, your fingers or your wrist right now? What feels more stuck and locked like it was with your hands?
The fingers.
The fingers. And as that builds through your fingers and your thumb, all the way through to your wrist, to your elbow, to your shoulders and your back, as you focus on that feeling, that sensation, it's going to get more stuck and more locked, just like the heart and that love bringing in that locked feeling like your hands there, because that's going to get more stuck and more locked. So in a moment, when you try to drop that card, it's going to get more stuck just like your hands before. So now if you try to drop that card, it's going to get more stuck. It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And now, just focus on it, because now I'm going to help you to release that pain and make that down to a 0, that useless and unnecessary pain. I want you to imagine that one spot on the card is a target. And in the center of that target is the pain that you feel, that sharp orange pain. And as you focus on that spot, I want you to imagine that in a moment, when you repeat those 3 magical words, a shock wave from your heart will go all the way through your fingers, and you'll be able to release that card and release that pain with it. And as you do that, you're going to feel the pain. Just for a little bit more, you have to be brave, but that's going to be gone, and that useless and unnecessary pain will be gone for good. Are you ready? Repeat after me. I am safe.
I am safe.
And release, and that shock wave going through, relaxing down all the way. Excellent. And notice you're already feeling a bit better, but we're not done yet. I want you to pick up that card for me.
Again.
And I need to get my marker, which I put in a safe place, which, there we go. We'll use this. I want you to write on that the pain you used to feel, that orange, so write orange and sharp right across the whole thing. Okay, and sharp. Excellent. Okay. Because now you've changed how you felt. And this can already be a catalyst for you to improve. But I want this to take that next step further so that as you continue to feel good with your back and do the physio you need to and all of the other things that you need to take care of your back, that this can be that catalyst to continue to feel better. So I want you to put it back in the deck anywhere you want. Yep, put it back in. Okay. And I'm going to do a bit of a shuffle. Happy that it's shuffled? I want you now to pick a card that represents how you want your back to feel. To be able to get to all the dishwashing you want, all of the movements and things that you want. So I want you to pick a card, pull it halfway out again, okay? So just halfway out, okay? Now again, giving you free choice. Do you want to take this card? Do you feel like that's the one? Or you can choose a different one.
No,
That's the one?
That's my magic card.
That's your magic card. This magic card, I want you to take it, put it to your chest without looking, and close your eyes. Okay? And now, I want you to imagine that you're floating outside of your body all the way to the entrance of this room, looking back at yourself. And as you look back at yourself, you'll notice that that useless and unnecessary pain is gone. The harder you try to experience and feel it, the further that feeling goes away. And as you look back at yourself, I want you now, your unconscious mind, to make those changes at a molecular and cellular level, that unnecessary and useless pain will be gone for good. And as you make those changes at a molecular and cellular level, you'll be able to float back into your body once those changes have been thoroughly and completely done. And as you do that, taking as much time as you need to thoroughly make those changes until you're ready, you can open your eyes.
It works because you almost don't want to get back in your body.
Yeah. But now you are, and you're feeling good. And look at that cards. Give her a round of applause. Now, we at a 0?
Almost.
Almost?
Yeah.
What number would you say right
I think
now?
the group is too big to become to 0, so it's more half.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Half to 1. Yeah.
Half to 1.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much. Go and have a seat. Give everyone
That's my card.
So that is yours to keep as a reminder of what your brain is capable of doing. So you can keep that for as long as you need to remember that you went from a 7 to a 0.5 just with using your own mind. So well done. All right. Thank you very much. That is hypnosis. It's fun, it's interesting, it's creative, it's steps and processes. I'm not magic. This was a card trick that helped to reduce pain from 7 to a 0.5 by creating a positive experience. The amazing thing is with hypnosis, it's something that is completely replicable and teachable. If I wanted to, if any of you wanted to, I could teach you how to get someone to have that same kind of a hand stick, probably within an hour or two, giving you the basics and the principles of hypnosis. The whole trick might take a day or two. But that's okay because that's why I love this. And I want to be an advocate for hypnosis to demystify it and show that it does have power to help and to heal. And the changes that you've made tonight can be long-lasting, depending on where you go from here. For Stuart, he was able to reduce his medications and be able to do more of the self-management techniques. Now, the technique that he did to improve how he felt, when he felt pain, he'd put his hands together, he'd focus, imagine that they're locking together, imagine that that represents the pain. Once he feels that it's in there and it's locked, he then said, I'm safe, relaxed the hands out, and he felt better. That was his self-management tool. And that's something that if you can use as well, any of you from here on today. And after that, I need a minute though, because I need to rant a little bit about one word that I absolutely despise. It was in my title, and I put it there because I know people resonate with it, but it's the word chronic. There's nothing about the word chronic that can make you feel like you can improve. And when someone gets labeled chronic pain, that's boom. That is hypnosis right there. As a hypnotist and as a physiotherapist, I am more than not dehypnotizing people to tell them, no, it's not chronic, it's just persistent. And I know that I've been told that I have sometimes a too positive of an outlook when it comes to pain. That my expectations are too high because I do believe, because pain is subjective, that anyone in this world, no matter what you have, no matter who you are, there are ways to decrease your pain. For some people, it might only be for short amounts. Or for others, you can make big changes really quickly. But I want you to replace the word chronic with persistent. Now, some of our ACC and some of our things, we need to have that in there. If I ever need to use the word chronic with a patient, I will always preframe saying, I need to write this here because that's the language that they like to use, but you have persistent pain. Because persistent means that there's something you can change and you can improve. And this one small thing can be that thing to go and make that patient experience a little bit better. Because that shows that you understand how language affects that person. And I've had a patient that after coming to one of my very early pain education sessions when I was a new grad, she said that her recovery was because of this. Because I went on this soapbox and I had a rant, and she said anytime that the doctor said I had chronic pain, I just thought in my head, no, I have persistent pain. I'm doing something about this. And she improved. So thank you. I just needed that minute to go forward here. So my services here. This is my little bit of a plug because I have, for the first time, an amazingly highly educated group here right now, and I want to plug my services so that hopefully the people that you know can get help from me with their pain. I have 5 things, my group workshops. My next one is this Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30. I always go with it being a donation. So money goes to Whakatane and the supplies that run the workshop. And I have a koha of $25, but for any patients that are low income or just don't have that, they don't need to. It's for a community service that I want to provide to help people that if they can't get anything else, they can at least come and get a positive experience from me. I also have online courses. Everything in my 2-hour Rethink Pain workshop, I've created an online course, and there's a booklet in the back for my 1 Day to Improve class. I've also recorded that, and I have dozens of techniques, self-management tools for people to help with their pain. I am also a physiotherapist, so I provide physiotherapy. And I just got recently subcontracted for the pain management service. That has been something that I've been working towards for a very long time, and I'm going to be a lead provider in the Bay of Plenty for pain management, pain and rehabilitation services. So I'm really excited about that because those are the people that I want to work with. People like myself who have conditions or injuries that have been long-standing and want ways to improve. I also have a unique little side project that I'm working on called Power Pictures. You might have noticed mine on the front there. This is using a technique called a metaphorical two-step from Melissa Tiers, a hypnotist in the United States this is simplicity of a technique. Engage the person into their pain, get them to provide a metaphor. What does that feel like? What is that experience like for you? And then provide them an opportunity to change. If you could wave a magic wand, what would that then change to? That image in your mind, what would it change to? It's the simplest tool, and I love simple, and this has already been helping people quite a bit because I then change it into a power picture. What you have on the back there that you can have a look afterwards is one I've done on myself, where I've gotten the help from a caricature artist who now works with me. He's from Montenegro, he's a freelancer. And I provide all of the details of what that person's story, that image of what they want to be, what they turn into. And for me, it was a superhero. And that makes me feel better anytime I look at that photo. And the last thing is health professional training. I love speaking. I'm an educator at heart. When I was a kid, if you asked me, I would want to be a teacher. But then this condition affected me, and I went down physiotherapy. Now I'm coming full circle to be back into being an educator. So I love teaching and speaking and helping people in that way. And we're going to be providing workshops and all kinds of different things for health professionals. But if you think that there's something I can help within your clinic, ask me and let's make that happen. Because I want to show the power of language and showing those positive experiences and how that can help. And what's next? I'm thinking a little bit of hypnosedation. I've been recently talking with an anesthetist in Adelaide who went to a Belgium university hospital where they're doing hypnosedation instead of anesthesia. This is something that's fascinated me since the moment that I heard of it. And the outcomes are so much more positive when you can guide someone through an experience where they're off on the beach somewhere while they're having this surgery. And the university that this guy went to, 20% of their breast cancer tumor resections were using hypnosedation, and 25% of the thyroid surgeries were using hypnosedation. I'm a ways away from that right now, but this fascinates me, and this is the crowd that would be impacted by this kind of a thing, so I want to get the discussion started, because he's doing it over in Adelaide, looking at procedures to develop it within their hospital. And I think that would be absolutely so cool. And that would put New Zealand in the map for that kind of a thing, too.
I pretty much do that to put a shoulder back in.
That's, yeah, exactly. You need to, when you're working with those patients, you're all great hypnotists. If you get something else from this, you're all great hypnotists, whether you like it or not. All right. I want you to think, how can I provide a more positive experience for my patients tomorrow? What is one thing that you can do when you go into your practice that's going to help those patients have that little bit more of a positive experience? Maybe it's the language that you use. Maybe it's going in through what your patient experiences. What photos are on the wall? What images are on your desk? What things might be putting in those subliminal messages in a bad way? Like those spines with the massive, big, red, juicy disc coming out of it that's not realistic at all. If you have one of them, throw it away, put it in the back closet, or chop off the red thing, because it's not helpful for people to see that and think, that's happening in my back. So what can you do tomorrow to improve and make a positive change to your patients? Questions? I've opened up yep.
Where is the group workshop held?
It's out of Whakatane, so it's right next to Crew on Tatahi Street. And all of my things are all register and do things online. So it's on the recycling depot area. That's where I put it. Anything else? Yep.
So that giving numbers to your pain, how can we look at that? And also, we often have patients in a room that say, I have a high pain threshold or I have a low pain threshold.
Yep.
I don't know what you should have.
Yeah, that's a great question.
You were asking me a number that, I don't know, I'm really positive, so I think I would have given it 2.
And that's a great question. I actually messed up my routine for that a little bit, because this is the way I normally do it in my practice. At the beginning of each physio session, I ask, how bad is your pain right now? how bad can you make it if you think about it? Because then in their mind, they make it a big number. That's okay, because then when we make a change, that is going to be more effective, isn't it? So I asked them, how bad's your pain? How big, what's that number right now? And then they say, oh, it's an 8. Okay. We're going to aim to get to 0. With any technique, we always aim for 0. But what number would make a significant difference to you so that you can leave here feeling better, so you could get back to doing dishwashing and any of those things you need to do? So then they think, oh, well, I guess a 4 would be that number. And then, all right, so we're going to aim for 0, but if we hit 4, you'll be happy with that, won't you? Yes, I will. When you frame it that way, and then have your session, and then say, how much better do you feel on that scale from 1 to 10? The only time I say the word pain is when I'm giving presentations like this, or at the beginning of my session. Other than that, I use sensation, feeling. What's that like? How much better do you feel? Because then they look in, well, if he's asking how much better I feel, I must be feeling better. And then, well, I must have gotten bound to my point, that's significant. That twist of the pain scale, the way that I described there, almost every single patient will get them down to that point, even if I don't do anything. So that's a really interesting way. You can also flip that scale. Once you get, okay, I have an 8 out of 10 for pain. All right, from here on out, we're going to use a comfort scale. So you're 2 out of 10 for comfort. We're going to aim for 10 on that comfort scale. That's another nice twist on that too. And then for the question on when I have those patients that, I have a high or low threshold of pain, I agree with it. It's okay. Your experience of pain is real. And I want to validate that experience, to know that your low threshold of pain, that's okay. We're going to work with where you are now, but I'm not too concerned about that. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? How do you want to feel? I only spend as little time as I can getting engaged into that negative, and if someone is really into a negative space, I'll actually do what's called a pattern interrupt in hypnosis. I will put a hand up and be like, okay, cool, let's take that thought, put it over here, what do you want instead? That answer your question? Cool. Any other questions? Yeah, Kelly?
When you asked about how receptive people are, so what if you found somebody who's not as receptive?
What do you do?
Not receptive than hypnosis really meant at all.
Yeah, so one is challenging, seeing how you can challenge those beliefs. Now, with anything, with any change, the person needs to be at threshold. They need to be willing to say, something has to change, it has to be me, and it has to be now. If someone doesn't fill those 3 things, no matter what you say, it's not likely going to be able to happen. Smoking cessation is one of the things that hypnosis is often used for, and doesn't have an actual great track record because people think it's a magic bullet that'll just fix them. They don't realize that they have to be at threshold. So if you have someone who is not, who is saying, oh, I'm not receptible, or I can't be hypnotized, my thought, sometimes like the language we use, because this is part of our training as hypnotists, because it happens quite a bit, it's like, I feel sorry for you. It's a fun thing. It's something that might be an interesting thing to experience, won't it? Well, how about we just do this receptibility test and see how we go from there? And the thing is, I always finish on a success. Now, some of you had your arms that come apart. That's okay. Because then I can feed that back and just say, and your hands come apart. Oh, okay, yeah, my hands just came apart. Yeah, and how did that feel? Well, it kind of felt like they were sticking, but then I said, well, no, I can just open my hands, and then I did. Oh, so you just showed me that you were in full control of your experience, didn't you? Oh, yeah, I guess. So how about we do the same thing, and you just be curious and open to a new experience, one where you can change how you feel in a different way. Any other questions?
With the group workshops, how many people do you normally have?
On average, I'm about 5 to 10, and I can hold probably about 15 people in those workshops, and I do them once a month. So that's my normal.
And are you working individually with those people in the shop?
No, most of the people will come once, and I won't see them again. Some of them will follow up with me doing physio privately, and usually those are the ones that have really good success because they know where I'm at and they already are applying those things. I just need to then find ways to specifically apply it. But it's a group session, and it's one of those things where what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I give lots of stories. All the stories that I tell, I have permission, like including with Stuart. He's one that is very happy to help me because of the change it made for him. So in those sessions, I'll be challenging people's beliefs and going through and having many discussions along the way on if they say, oh, well, my ruddy old back is never going to get better. Well, how does that belief serve you? I will challenge people on the spot, and that's one of the parts of having that group dynamic. Yeah?
In the facility that was doing hypnosis for sedation, have they ever done, do they do acupuncture for pain or sedation also?
In that surgical setting?
Because I've heard a lot about acupuncture being done for sedation.
It can. I will put it this way. I don't know about the research, but I did do some hypnosis, provided hypnosis for an acupuncturist. Now, one of the things that, as a hypnotist, I'm leveraging hypnotic phenomenon, and one of them is catalepsy. Catalepsy is body rigidity. It's that waxy buildup, that movement that if you're holding a phone for a while, your body creates the agonist and antagonist muscles to keep that action, and then afterwards you're like, ooh, okay, that's stiff. That stiffness is something that happens naturally, so I can use it as a hypnotist. When you get acupuncture, say if I had acupuncture in I was having a session, we did a swap, so the acupuncturist gave me a session, and then I gave her a hypnosis session. She put it through my hands, and I realized that my hand was just kind of awkwardly just sitting there. And I realized, oh, because the acupuncture needles are in different strategic places, it's creating this catalepsy, which makes my hand feel like it's not really quite my own. And you might have noticed that feeling when you're holding that card as well. When you felt, and that's what I'm calibrating to look, all right, she's holding that feeling. At first, there's a little bit of movements, and that's kind of conscious movements, and then it gets very still. And the changes start to happen and ripple up, and then I intensify that. What feels more intense, the fingers or the wrist? Well, the fingers do. Oh, well, now you've just agreed that that feels more stuck and locked, didn't you? So I'm going to feed that back in and pull that feeling across. So with acupuncture, I haven't actually heard of it, but I could see how that could help to create a cataleptic state, especially needles throughout your whole body that could be used in that same way. So it'd be mixing both of the worlds for sure. Great question. That's a good one.